We have with us today Jagannathan, editor-in-chief of Firstpost.com, a really terrific website.
Thank you.
First out in notifications on what's happening in the country, even internationally. So I congratulate you on that. You had a background of print. And I think you and I are possibly the only people of this age who have made the transition into the digital media. What was the transition like for you? Were you in any way computer technology challenged, or you just got right into it?
No. Actually, I've been straining at the leash for quite a while. In fact, I tried to break out of print 10 years ago, but it was at the wrong time. It was just when the dot-com bust happened in 2001. So I was always trying to do this, but that time I had to return hurt because
like me.
Yes, because it didn't work and everything was collapsing all around you in dot-coms, and we came back. But I was always clear that this was the medium I wanted to be in. So it took another 10 years for it to really start working. Sometimes you're too early, I think, with the ideas, so it doesn't work. So that's why I've been. But I think the transition has been wonderful for me, except that I'm not particularly strong on the technology side, but there are people who do that. I mean, I only want to know how to use the technology, and that's where I think there's no problem. As long as you're adaptable, it's fine.
But your writing style has changed when you write on the web?
No, actually I used to write the same on print because I'm not a video person or anything like that. I like the interactivity of the medium. So if you write something and somebody calls you an idiot, you say, look, I think this is what I meant. Why do you call me an idiot? So it's fine. So I like the interactivity and the fact that people put their emotions up front and they say that, look, I think this is rubbish. So which you don't get in print, even though you may write the same thing, but you don't get a response for days on end. So I think this is far better.
There's much more engagement.
Absolutely.
Even if you get abused, it's okay because you're in touch with people. I think that's terrific.
No, I appreciate the abuse because one thing is that comes from the heart. So if you're so angry with something and you want to call somebody an idiot or even some worse things, I think it's fine. And in fact, it probably reduces your tendency to do violence outside. So because since you got your emotion out in
I don't
words.
know, maybe it encourages it.
Could be,
because sometimes I feel like I'm being lynched because one person starts it and then all the abuse. I don't like abuse. I block off abuse, but I welcome disagreement.
Well, I've been
cheap
lucky.
Abuse and personal remarks is out.
No. I think I think with women I would agree because there are a hell of a lot of sexist remarks that are coming in. With men, you don't get it. Usually, you will only get an abuse that's acceptable. In the women, they'll call you X and Y and.
Yeah, I've had that. But I've had some wonderful defense where somebody responds, "Ke औरत पर गाली देता है." Is this what you know? There's a wonderful sort of give and take.
That's right.
Now, what do you think of the traditional media at this stage? It seems to be all of it seems to be in big trouble, except for say Times of India. But television channels, the print. Is there a place for weekly magazines? What do you think of the traditional media? There are new magazines that have come out, Open and Caravan. What is your opinion of, one, the older magazines like India Today and Outlook, and your opinion of the new ones?
See, I'm very clear that the traditional print model is broke. It can't be fixed. In every market, there might be one survivor, or maybe one guy living life at the edge, but that's about it. As far as magazines are concerned, the very general magazines have no future. I mean, they are struggling, they're trying to put those special inserts like home and women and those kind of things, hoping that the ads there will drive by delivering a certain kind of audience. But there is scope for the long form journalism, which may be niche, but they are there. And they have to be low cost, but they can be deep. So there is scope for it, but those won't be highly profitable, but they can exist. So that's the thing. So I think the internet is the only game in town as far as I can see.
When you walk into these television studio channels and you look at the infrastructure, which is extraordinarily heavy, and you look at what we can deliver with such low cost and distribution, does it make sense then for them to even continue?
Well, it is, but the thing is, at this point, I think they are not earning enough to really invest in the kind of programs they should be doing with 100 OB vans and this and that. I mean, their costs are too high relative to their revenues. So I don't think they will succeed unless they change their business model. They have to look at it. And I have a different view on how independent media needs to be funded, even assuming you want it on that scale, because I think media is a public good. And if you want independence, you cannot have over dependence on certain kinds of financing, certain kinds of funding, certain kinds of advertising. So the corporate, for example, today you can't write against a single company, even if he is the crookedest entrepreneur in the world. That is
that has happened where Tatas have withheld advertising from India Today, from Times of India, in fact, all kinds of manipulation.
Absolutely.
But Firstpost is owned by a huge business house.
That's right. No, not yet, but it's in the process of being so. And I think the arrangement is not so direct ownership. It is through the existing promoter, I think the business house will probably be financing him to own the shares.
So what is Firstpost's revenue model?
No, at this point it's largely driven by advertising. Given our low cost base, the advertising will be enough to control it. So I don't think there is a problem. I think we will be okay. I think give it 3 years, I think we should do fine.
Now supposing you get a story, a very obvious story, which is not very positive about Mukesh Ambani. How would you handle that?
No, we'd handle it like any other story.
And you get a directive that you can't do this?
Well, I haven't got a directive so far, but when I do that, I think we'll have to look at different options. I certainly can't let a story that's genuine not be played. That can't be done. Now,
in America, international media, Huffington Post aligned with AOL and the Daily Beast aligned with Newsweek. One was successful in the alignment, one wasn't. Do you think websites, news websites, should align themselves with print organizations?
See, there is only one reason to align. That is because when it comes to your sources, the credibility of the traditional media, mainstream media, is far higher. Like say you want to meet a minister, even if you are publishing a rag which sells 100 copies, he still gives it higher weightage than if you say I am from this .com.
That's a really serious problem. It's really annoying because when I approach someone for an interview who has been dodging me for weeks, and then I see him on mainstream media giving an exclusive, all right, and then I see that the importance that he's giving to an interview that will appear and disappear once it's seen, whereas we have lakhs of hits, and it's there forever for everybody to see, and plus it's international, so people around the world see it. So in terms of reach, our reach is much bigger. But we are treated very much like the regional media. That websites are, bachon ka khel. I don't have time for you. That is very annoying.
It is annoying, and which is actually the only justification for being aligned with traditional media, because you use that as the calling card, and but actually do your journalism on the web. But I think it will change, because I think there are a lot of T-Rexes in this business, so they have to first retire from the
Your
place.
article about Zakaria's plagiarism, I did not agree with it at all.
Right.
What made you write that? I mean, do you really believe that when he took passages from another writer, that he changed them around a little bit, but the ideas and the concepts and much of the language is also very, very similar? How could you support something like that? That is plagiarism.
No. There are 2-3 things here. I did not support it. My views
You said it's not much.
Yeah.
Now that's not a good thing to say. How can you say it's not much? If somebody has done something wrong, it's either right or wrong. You can't say it's not much wrong.
No, I think there are gradations. I think there are gray areas where I think somebody can take a call. I do agree that the first thing a journalist must learn to do is attribute something that is not his. Okay, this is something we in Firstpost we repeatedly tell all our web producers, all our things. But I think once in a while somebody will goof up, because he may be tired, he may be doing something like that. So I do not know whether Zakaria did this because somebody did the research for him and gave him the thing and something
Highly
like that.
Possible, because he's a very busy man.
It's possible. So you can take a call and say that, okay, this is a crime, so it's you get punished for it. And I think the ignominy of it is bigger punishment than anything else. So my point is, for me, it is a crime with a small c. There are larger crimes. There is also another thing. I have a fair amount of sympathy for the copyleft movement, where I think intellectual property, like say words or phrases, one should not make such a big copyright issue about it.
No, but I'm not looking at it as a copyright issue.
That's right.
I'm looking at it as his own credibility.
Yeah.
That if you're, for example, an article that I wrote in the Indian Express and then appeared in Newslaundry about the Azad Maidan. I used a concept from Abraham Maslow, which I use a lot of Carl Jung or Joseph Campbell. I use their ideas and concepts in a lot of my articles. But the first thing I did was
acknowledge it.
Acknowledge that. Absolutely. And then made my own version of his idea.
That's right.
So it is very easy to do. It only takes 2 words, according to, and then put your own views.
Absolutely. No.
So then why did you drop Samar Hadlankar's article? I mean, the article that exposed that he had plagiarized
I don't know whether he plagiarized. I think he didn't give enough attribution. That's what I think it was, sir. And I think I don't know. For me, these are all grey areas where I would say let's not be too moralistic, too holier than thou, too judgmental. People may make mistakes. He did mention the author somewhere else, but forgot to connect the rest of the dots to the remaining things.
But then he's presenting all that as his own.
That's right.
So I think our morality, like everything else in India, has become very grey.
Yes.
That, dodging taxes is okay, jumping red lights is okay, taking somebody else's copy is okay.
Correct.
It's become very blurred.
Yes.
And I think that unless we take a stand and demand that kind of clarity, that if you're taking something from someone, give it their due. What do you lose?
No, I agree. I mean, there is no disagreement at all with what you say. But what I'm saying is, when I want to sit in judgment of somebody, I would take a much more softer line, because I think I would like to be harsh on myself, not on somebody else.
But unless you're harsh as editor, unless you're harsh on other people, the standards won't be maintained.
No, so I would be harsh. Say, for example, in our first post, something like this happened. So we did ask the person to leave. Somebody asked the person to go. Okay. Now
we had that happen in Newslaundry, and we just took off all the pieces.
So we did that. So, but when it comes to others, I feel a little squeamish about the, what do you call? I mean, taking too much of a moralistic line on that.
But Jaggi, isn't this what we are accused of, that we protect our own? This is why the Radia tape sat with so many months, with so many people, and nobody ran it until Outlook, and it was there with them for at least 9 months. Some people had them from between 6 to 9 months, but nobody ran it. And we then stand as guilty that we do protect our own. It's very uncomfortable for us to publish this story on Samar. Very uncomfortable. You don't like doing it. But then we have a brief that we want to uphold certain standards.
No, I agree. I mean, in fact, now that you say it, I think probably I need to really look at my own attitude on this. But so far I have been a little soft on these things, because I think that I've seen so much of it that I don't suddenly want to say that, okay, everything about it is criminal,
Yeah, but Jaggi, sometimes when you get a press release or you read an article in any newspaper, and you read it and this is directly from a press release, because a Congress party hands a press release out to a reporter, he just takes the whole thing and puts it. He could simply disassociate himself from the press release and say, according to the Congress party spokesperson, and put in all that. So then you know that you're reading what the Congress party has said, not what this reporter is saying as a fact. So that line has become blurred with everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I think I need to rethink my attitudes here.
Now, do you have strong political views yourself? You say that you're interested in gender. In your blog you wrote, in men's dilemmas, in communalism, job quotas, governance, economics, business, stock markets, personal investing, books and ideas. Now, do you have strong political ideas?
Yeah, I mean, though it's difficult to slot ideas in something like that.
With a party?
Huh? No, not with a party, and not certainly with the kind of parties we have now. But broad ideas in terms of being liberal in one area, being more conservative in some area. It's a bit difficult to slot the whole thing, So I do certainly have my political views, but
do you change your mind a lot?
Yes and no. Meaning,
say, as in Anna Hazare.
Yeah.
Did you change your mind on him?
Completely. I changed my mind completely on it, because
tell me your first view and then how you changed it.
See, I started by supporting him and the movement for a very simple reason, that I think he captured the mood right at the right time. I think there was this idea, I think there's a groundswell of opinion against corruption, and they said, look, this is going too far, and I think we need to build a people's movement on that. So I think when he captured the idea, and he was also personally a fairly clean person, so I thought we need to do that. But then I found that he was actually did not really represent a very dynamic, forward-looking, modern view. He was an old-style anti-corruptionist, and that era is gone. So, in that sense, I think he's the wrong person to lead the right movement. That is what I felt.
And I think people were there more for their anger,
correct,
rather than actual specific issues, such as the Jan Lokpal bill,
absolutely,
which had to be debated in detail rather than just a general, you take it or we will put the country to ransom.
I think so. I think people came there because they saw that he caught the mood at the right time. And I would say more Arvind Kejriwal did it, and they managed to hoist him at the right time. So it suddenly had a flow and a credibility at the right time. But the Jan Lokpal itself might not be well conceived.
You changed your mind and then wrote the second article. How do people respond and tell you that take a stand?
No, see, it's like this. If you do not change your mind when you see all the full facts, then what is the point? The consistency of fools, I don't think that is necessary.
Fantastic.
So I don't see the need to not change my views.
I think intelligent people do change their minds.
They do change their minds, because after you see the whole group of events, you started with thinking it may represent the right mood, right time, then you find wrong person. So you have to change your mind.
But do you think that anti-corruption has become a wonderful bandwagon for anyone who has political ambitions to jump on, such as Ramdev, to just take it to increase his following and capture that same anger that people feel? His own history, his trust actually making money, his island off Scotland, his running away in women's clothes, when the police were coming while his own followers were being beaten. I find it difficult to support somebody like that.
Yes, Ramdev does not have the credibility that even Anna Hazare has, because I think he is more an opportunist in this corruption.
And he's a great yoga teacher.
Yeah, and that's right. Now he's ruined what he has, and he's trying to be something else. So I don't think it will work for him.
In one of your interests, you mentioned men's dilemmas. What are your dilemmas as a man?
No, I have no dilemmas personally as a man, but I do see that I think in the last 20 years change has crept a lot on men, and they genuinely do not know what is right, what is wrong, and they have seen, at one level they have seen a lot of empowered women coming in, and at another level, at the societal level, at the school level, at the family level, we still do not know what to do with our boys. We still do not know what's the right way to bring up, what's the right way to sensitize them on what the future holds for them. We do not have a way of dealing with boys and men as they grow. The next generation needs to be taught a different way, that look, men, this is what the future is, this is the way you need to develop, these are the kind of inputs you need to be a good man, this is the way, without losing your masculinity or whatever. I think nobody is talking about them. The only images you have today are rapists, murderers. That is the kind of people. No? So how will you expect boys to grow up with that image? You will grow up with a huge sense of guilt. You will grow up with a huge sense that, look, do I belong to the wrong gender? I think we need to be sensitive to the fact that boys need a different kind of inputs from the time they are born to the schools and to later on. And also in professions, in offices, whatever it is. I think this.
And girls too need to feel, because I'm shocked sometimes when somebody who I consider educated says to me in a conversation that I just listen to my husband, I do what he tells me to do, and I'm appalled.
Yeah.
And I have to bite my tongue to say, don't you have a brain of your own? But there are people who say that. Right. In mistaken modernity, women will wear short skirts and bleach their hair, but when it comes to, they will be fasting on Monday for their sons, or to get a son, and then treat the son differently, and all the sisters also treat the son differently. Right. So it is, but I was in China and some official asked me, what does your country do for character building? I was nonplussed. This is something that in our schools have really not paid attention to.
Absolutely.
So what do you think should be done? I mean, what can we do as journalists in this?
Well, I think as journalists, if we can bring up the right issues related to parenting, towards schooling, and even to sensitization in workplaces, I think if we focus on these issues, I think the problem with journalism is that it has become adversarial in some level. It is not good enough when it comes to promoting a dialogue. Say you want to talk about communalism. I don't think communalism is about abusing the Sangh Parivar. I think communalism is about, secularism is about getting two people to discuss their differences, and how can you transcend it so that you actually are less communal when you, after the dialogue. Here if you go, you set one other against the other, encourage some minority communalism and just abuse others and things like that, that is not secularism, you know. So similarly, I think there is gender dialogue is very important among adults, and for younger people you need to have a different understanding. You need to discuss, maybe you and I could discuss this and see what is the program we need to do in schools for children, you know, co-ed schools. How do you do that? So that's what we need to discuss.
Yeah, but whether this government is even open to listening to that, which brings me to the subject of Asim Trivedi, the blocking of Twitter handles, the censoring your article on Chidambaram. Why do you think this government is doing this? Why are they spending so much time on censoring social media, mainstream media, television? There was one funny film, a comedy that I saw with Adam Sandler in it, and every time he said the word terrorist, it was beeped out. And he was saying it in a joke. So have they gone mad? Or you think that they're doing the right thing?
No, obviously they're doing the wrong thing. I think when a government is lost its confidence, when it's feeling itself to be very weak, this is the kind of response you expect. A confident government would not need to do that. You know, you can deal with it or laugh it off. You can do so many things. You know, but this government has completely lost its sense of what it's about. They came to say they came for the Aam Aadmi, but they have lost sense of what Aam Aadmi is all about. And they have just, I think they're somehow holding on to power without a clue on why they are in power. So when you lose a sense of that and you are feeling emasculated by the things around you, you're not in control of anything, they will do stupid things like this. I think
and you mentioned earlier in another interview that they're spending time showing the obscene pictures that they want to block to hundreds of people.
Correct.
And if you're showing them to hundreds of people that this is what you want to block, you're giving it more publicity than people. I mean, I've got pictures which are obscene, you just delete them and forget about it.
Correct.
So what do you think is happening? I mean, it is such a confusing state that Kanchan Gupta is being called for an interrogation by a committee in the Ministry of Telecom. On Monday, he was invited to answer questions, and he was shown 2 images that he had uploaded from Life magazine, historical archival pictures of the partition, and they told him that you could morph these, and he said you can't. There's sepia pictures. It's difficult. There seems to be a complete lack of understanding of the medium, first of all.
Correct.
And doesn't this smack of the emergency, calling up journalists to answer questions to a committee, a high-level committee, all joint secretaries sitting in front of him?
Yes, absolutely. I think they have completely lost their mental balance on how to deal with criticism, how to deal with things. I think they've got hold of the idea that somehow, I think there is some electoral politics in this. I think they want to get small communities to get angry over something or the other. Because once you got people on the hop in an emotional area, then they will stop thinking rationally, they'll stop thinking about whether the government is doing the right thing. So it is in the government's interest to generate some kind of communal anger for whatever reason. So that's why Kapil Sibal is busy showing people dirty pictures. Aren't you offended? Aren't you offended? Aren't you offended? So that's the way to go about it. So that's the problem. I
saw that you have this voting system in the Firstpost. And you asked this question, whether Asim Trivedi, do you think it was right for the government to arrest Asim Trivedi? 57%, the majority, said yes. 43% said no. Which means the majority of Indians support the government in suppressing a cartoonist. Is that because they have lost faith in the media, or because they feel that these symbols have to be protected?
Yeah, I think that's a bit astonishing. I was also a little surprised, but I think most Indians do at some subliminal level have a sense of sacredness about national symbols. Okay, so they do not like the idea of a flag being burnt or something like that, even though it may be meant for a cartooning reason. So that is what probably may be coming out, but I don't think it means any kind of support for censorship. I think sometimes in this single point voting system, where you say you have to say either yes or no, you cannot say maybe, or you can't say no, I disagree with both points of view. So sometimes you may get these kind of things because you have to say yes or no. Have you stopped beating your wife? You'll have to say yes or no, and both are wrong.
When they remove cartoons from textbooks, we're removing the sense of being able to laugh
That's right.
and irreverence at your politicians, which is something that the kids should know. The kids should know that you can question your.
That's right.
So, what do you think should change on that level in terms of inculcating this irreverence? And I was really upset about seeing 57% said he should be arrested.
Yeah, correct. No, I think what has happened is we have had a long situation of about last 5 or 10 years where all our leaders have been in hiding. They have not talked to their constituencies. If you any kind of leader, Sonia Gandhi is behind a fortress. Rahul Gandhi, suddenly he might catapult himself into a Dalit house, but otherwise he is in hiding. Narendra Modi will make speeches only from behind barricades. Mayawati will come and imperiously announce a press conference, make an announcement and disappear. Chidambaram will come and do this. Jayalalitha will do this. I mean, everybody is talking down to people, nobody is talking to. If you saw the Bill Clinton's address the other day, he was trying to talk to you and he was trying to address your concerns. He was trying to do something like that. All our leaders. Now, this is not only in politics. It is also in, say, business. Why does a company that practices a Japanese system have a situation where workers go on go on a violence? I would have thought the first thing you would have is a middle manager who is talking constantly to workers, so that there is some system of communication. Even if the workers are angry, there is a buffer there. So people have stopped talking. People have stopped communicating and say that this is what I am angry about, this is what I want changed. That system has stopped. Now it has become in such a, even at homes this is what is happening, because parents do not talk much to their children. I mean,
really?
Very rarely do I see them talk, because I think especially in places where, say, both parents are working, and I think the parents have a sense of guilt that we can't give them time. So this child asks for anything, it gets it. So there is no discussion. Do you really need it? Is this thing? No, I think you cannot have this because of this reason. Okay, they are not willing to accept that the child can be miffed for 5 minutes, but that you can still love him or her.
Coming back to journalism, we have a really situation where journalism per se has lost all credibility. This paid news, hashtag paid news, if you disagree with the person, you're paid news. What is the way out of this to bring our credibility back? It is our USP. If we lose that, we're nothing.
I think there are two things that are already happening. The hopeful sign is that internet journalism is growing, and increasingly I think people will learn to distinguish good from bad by reading multiple things, whether it's a blog or a news site or whatever it is.
It is more democratic, but then there's a lot of lies and
right.
unsubstantiated stories.
Correct.
And I mean, I'm sent stories like, this has happened. And then when I check it, it's completely untrue.
Yeah, correct.
And then they say, but you're paid news, that's why you're not running it.
That's right.
So how does one now with this wide democratization of this space, there has to be another churning now of being able to create credibility within this space.
Correct.
How does that happen?
I think I think journalism now needs to be beyond a business. I think you cannot treat journalism as a business anymore. At least not beyond a point. You can be partly a business, but you cannot be really for profit. I think good journalism needs money. You cannot, suppose you want to produce whatever kind of medium you want, even if it's internet, it may be relatively lower cost, but if you want to produce a newspaper, you need to invest in it. You need good journalists. You cannot expect that they will all come for this thing. And if you're so 80% dependent on advertising, so where is your freedom? So I think the business model for journalism needs to change, where it is funded more like a university, where it's only at the margin that you need to take funds that you are not so comfortable with. So now what happens is you're entirely dependent on funds that you're uncomfortable with. So this model needs, like in the US there are some attempts like the ProPublica and all that. They have independently funded thing where journalists, their basic costs of journalism are taken care of. So the additional money that may come through advertising, the advertising comes because you're bringing a certain kind of audience. It's not because he's been coaxed and cajoled to somehow give the ad and then he takes the final call on what will get published. So I think we need to move to that kind of journalism. I think we need trusts funding it. We need trusts that are not dependent so much on advertising. So that's the model we have to move to. I mean, like BBC is a different model, but it managed for a long time with the license fee that they used to get from the public, you know. So, but that won't work in our thing because our government itself is suspect. So, if they do anything like this, you have a problem. But I think there is enough public wealth, enough private wealth to support this kind of journalism. I think we need to explore that in the future. I think.
So you think there needs to be a churning of the business model itself,
yes,
rather than just the journalistic area.
Absolutely. I don't think journalism should be run for profit. It has to be done because journalism is a public good. So, and it serves a purpose, because without journalism you cannot have a free society, you know, because you need different opinions, you need different news, fairly unbiased. You may be biased, but at least if you have a multiplicity of biases, they cancel each other out and you get better journalism, you know. So all that you need. And I think
if you were to advise Kapil Sibal today, what would you tell him?
I'd ask him to first retire and do something else.
No, but besides that, what would you advise him to do, considering all the things that have happened?
On the media?
On Google, Facebook, how he tried to restrain Google and Facebook, how Twitter handles have been blocked, websites have been blocked, your article. Why was your article blocked? We never elaborated on that. Your article on Chidambaram, why was it blocked?
Even when you do some degree of censorship, I think it is done in a stupid way. So I think somebody must have thought Saab may not like it and may have just removed it. So it is not thought through in terms of what damage will it do. Is it going to lead to violence, or is it going to lead to some communal tension? Nobody even thinks about this. Acha, he seems to have criticized A, so out. That's the kind of thinking that must have happened. But when it comes to Kapil Sibal, I would say this, that...
So we should have faith in their stupidity.
Yeah,
so it'll be all right.
That's the only thing. But no, but what it means is it brings down trust in government, it brings down trust in everybody. I mean, we are destroying trust in everything.
So what would you advise Kapil, you were saying?
So I would say that I think it is good for the government to be monitoring what is going on, whether it is in social media or this thing. But you should not act on it. What you should do is, if you find somebody is playing mischief, let's say you had all those morph pictures going there, right? So the government can easily use the social media to spread the information that look, this is what is wrong, see, this is the right picture, this is the wrong picture, and things like that. And you can today send an SMS to the whole population for free.
You see, they're treating the SMS as Twitter and Facebook as an enemy, as an opposition.
Right. Correct.
That, you know, they're doing this, we block them.
Correct.
Whereas they can be part of it.
Absolutely.
They can correct the perception.
Right.
The Prime Minister could have gone and spoken to the nation and said, do not believe these images.
Correct.
Speak to us.
Correct.
And tell them, you will be safe, stay where you are.
Correct.
And make sure that they are.
That's right.
And then tweet surely all these ministers who are on Twitter, look at how Narendra Modi uses it to his advantage.
That's right, correct. And not only that, you know, you can also say, if you find somebody doing this mischief, please alert us. So we will alert everybody about it.
Yeah.
You know, not go and block it and do that and all. They'll make a mess of it, and they destroy whatever little faith people have in the government is now gone, because they now think that it is all filtered news, doctored news, done for the benefit of a party or a minister or whatever it is. And you can't have governance when people have no faith in the government. You know, that is what they have reduced us to.
Yeah, yeah. And this pattern that they have followed in terms of restricting the media and censorship, and also their social, not well thought through programs which you have written about, the food security bill, etc., Narega, all those. Do you think they are following Indira Gandhi's Bible?
Yeah, but I think Indira Gandhi lived in far simpler times, you know, where I think there was a reasonable guarantee, and the ideas were coming for the first time. So she said, Garibi Hatao, people believed her and things like that. Then it went through our system, and you found that every 100 rupees poured into Garibi Hatao, then 80% went somewhere else and 20% reached that. So they have, I mean, it's good in a poor country to be focusing on the poor, but how do you focus on the poor? You know, do you make them dependent on you, or do you make them stand
and actually remove them from the workforce?
Yeah, correct. That's right. So that is not thought through at all. So you're just thinking in terms of how can it bring votes in 2014, or in that case 2009. I mean, that's all they're thinking about. So which means it's all money down the drain, and they've destroyed our economy this way. I mean, Manmohan Singh rescued us in 1991. In 2014, he has landed us in exactly the same mess that he rescued us from. So what's the point?
Why is that?
Well,
because the government has carried out socialistic views, socialistic policies, when the country has moved in a capitalistic track.
No, I don't think they are socialist at all. My point is, I would be the first one to support a food security bill that thought about food security. But food security does not start at the top. Food security is about, it starts from the bottom. You ask even Newslaundry and things, he will tell you this is rubbish. I mean, he may not mind so much being spent, that's a different issue. But the fact is, food security has to start at the local level, where say 3 districts or 4 districts band together and say, this is the kind of food we produce. How can we stock it and make sure that the poor don't die of hunger when there is a need for it? How do we keep it? So instead of getting your wheat from Punjab and rushing it to Dibrugarh, who may not like that wheat either. So what's the point? I mean, you are actually adding to cost without actually giving you food security.
We saw all those images of warehouses where
right.
the stuff is being eaten by rats
Absolutely.
and destroyed.
Correct.
So it's just a matter of complete inefficiency.
That's right.
And well, thank you very much, Jaggi, for your time.
Thank you.
It was very illuminating. Thank you.
Thank you very much.